From Washington, this is VOA News. Hong Kong's chief executive calls for immediate end to protests. And the U.S. reports its first case of the Ebola virus. I'm Joe Palca, reporting from Washington. A patient being treated at a hospital in the southern U.S. city of Dallas, Texas, has tested positive for Ebola. Dr. Thomas Frieden, the director of the Center for Disease Control, held a news conference, and he said that a man who had been in Liberia flew to the United States, where he did not show any symptoms, yet 4 days later he was diagnosed with the Ebola virus. He is now obviously quarantined in Dallas, Texas. Now, the CDC says 12 other people in the U.S. have been tested for Ebola since July the 27th, and all those tests came back negative. Pro-democracy protests in Hong Kong are expected to swell on Wednesday, China's National Day, as demonstrators remain defiant of government orders for the civil disobedience to end. Tens of thousands of protesters camped out in at least 3 parts of Hong Kong on Tuesday, maintaining their demands for greater democratic reforms and for Hong Kong Chief Executive Leung Chun-ying to resign. British Prime Minister David Cameron expressed his concern about the former colony. The Occupy Central movement set a Wednesday deadline for Leung to meet those demands, but it's perfectly obvious that he intends to crack down tomorrow, irrespective of the number of people that show up. Britain has launched its first air attack against the Islamic State in Iraq. The Ministry of Defense announced on social media on Tuesday that its fighter jets hit a militant heavy weapons post. Now, the airstrikes mark Britain's debut in the U.S.-led coalition, which includes Arab and European militaries. Kurdish fighters carried out a series of attacks against Islamic State positions on Tuesday in Iraq, supported by Iraqi military and 11 coalition airstrikes. The UN's humanitarian chief warned Tuesday that tens of thousands of more people could be forced to flee Syria if Islamic State militants continued to make territorial gains. A report filed earlier today from a Ms. Amos said that there are thousands of people being pushed over into other countries who need to be fed. She said nearly 11 million Syrians require urgent assistance. In August, the World Food Program and its partners were able to deliver food for about 4 million people. The Associated Press reports that the warring factions in South Sudan have agreed on a federal system of government for the country. Some details are yet to be worked out. The agreement was announced today by mediators seeking a solution to the political crisis in South Sudan. The United States will keep thousands of troops in Afghanistan for another decade under a deal signed Tuesday. Now, that's the first major public decision by the country's new president, Ashraf Ghani. The long-delayed bilateral security agreement will allow nearly 10,000 U.S. military and civilian personnel and another 2,000 NATO forces to stay after the original December 31st deadline for the international troops to exit. The pact allows the foreign coalition to continue training Afghan security forces and target al-Qaeda operations in the country. At the signing, Mr. Ghani said the deal was needed for stability in the country and around the globe. The European Union will keep sanctions in place against Russia in spite of the tenuous ceasefire between Russian-backed separatists and Ukrainian forces. An EU spokeswoman in Brussels today acknowledged the encouraging developments, but said not enough has been done to justify lifting the sanctions. The EU wants other provisions of the ceasefire agreement to be fully implemented. Kyiv and the West accuse Russia of providing the rebels with weapons and recruits, charges that Moscow denies. Joe Palca on VOA.
That's the latest world news from VOA.